Welcome friends to the newest edition of Seahawkers What If, the most unique Seahawks preview show in the multiverse. I'm your host, Clinton Bonner. Come out and find me on Twitter, that is, at Clinton Bond. I am joined by the one, the only, the great Brandon Schultz. Find him out on Twitter at SeahawkersPod. And folks, we know by now, this would not be Seahawkers What If. We could not traverse the multiverse without our hero of the day, of the millennia, of the whole thing, infinity, the protector of the Seahawks multiverse, Mr. Phil Leidick. Gentlemen, 3 in a row. We got the Cardinals.
3 double-digit wins in a row, Clinton. 3 double-digit wins.
Good caveat. Good call out of the gate there, Mr. Phil. 3 double-digit, pretty much, our games. There was like the Goonies, down the well. Our time down here. It was our time. 3 times in a row. Now we got to go to a place that's a bit. We just got through Halloween. Little house of horrors for different reasons. Can we go into the desert and get this next W? And we're going to be talking about that today on What If. Before we do that, of course, hey, Brandon, why don't you tell the good listeners, what can they do? What should they be doing to raise the collective chakra before we get going on What If?
If you're listening for the first time and you haven't yet subscribed to the show, you got to subscribe to the show. That way you get all the shows that we produce out in your podcast feed. If you want to go to seahawkerspodcast.com/subscribe or send your friends there too. Say, hey, this is where you go to find out where it's best to listen, how you want to listen. And then if you decide that you like this show to the point that you want to provide support, you can go to getintheflock.com, support the show there. Also out on YouTube, youtube.com/Seahawkerspodcast. You can hit the join button there if you want to help support us that way. So lots of ways to listen, lots of ways to provide support, and we appreciate whatever way you want to go with it.
I love that. And we're entering the month of giving thanks, right? We're now in Thanksgiving mode. And of course, thank you all for being here with us and talk about the multiverse, all the ways you can listen, all the ways you can indulge, all the ways you can support. We love them all. By the way, if you're listening to this week, go check out a Twitter poll I just put out, MVPino or MVGino. Let's see what the final verdict finally is. Mr. Phil, as we turn this over to you to do your thing, how you doing this weekend? How are you getting fired up? How do you get mentally prepped for another game where we are, hoping to get another double-digit victory? Get us inside the mind of you, Mr. Phil. What do you do to get ready?
Well, the way I get ready is by taking a look at the team that we're about to play, how they've been playing. I've enjoyed doing that ever since NFL has allowed the condensed version, because when you can watch the condensed version, it's like a valuable way to get an idea of what we're about to go into. And so since we've been doing this show, I take notes down, of course. Everybody knows about that. It's like before we say what if, we want to say what was. We do the previously with a protector. And if you don't mind, Clinton, I'll just run through what I have down here, and we'll do a fast drive through. Of course, we're familiar with this team because we just played them here in the last month. The overall team, here's what's interesting. Like, Vegas has them picked, and yet by DVOA or PFF, which I don't subscribe, but I have DVOA, they are one of the worst teams. They are 30th by both PFF and DVOA, and yet for some reason we're expected to lose. Maybe it's just the spooky element there of Glendale. I don't know, but they're coached poorly in most ways, other than, I would say, second half adjustments. They tend to seem to make some good adjustments on offense and defense. The rest of the things involving coaching, I mean, it's pretty weird. It's a wacky, crazy place there. Their offense, they have weapons aplenty. Their offense is 26th by DVOA weighted, but they got a lot of weapons. There's one major area that's like a boat anchor holding them down. We'll talk to that in a moment. Hopkins and Moore, who's 5'7", they're both dynamic. They cause problems in their own ways. Obviously, Hopkins is the better player, but they both can cause problems. At running back, Eno Benjamin is, I would say, good enough. He did drop an easy catch this last week, but he does all the stuff fine. Maybe like DJ Dallas. I don't know if you want to put him there. Protection is fairly poor. They're not good enough to allow for a winning offense. Their offensive line is 28th by DVOA, and it's tough to play offensive football with a bad O-line. And they got a lot of guys banged up. They got some players that might be able to play, but they got a lot of guys banged up, may not be playing this weekend. Ertz, he's still crafty and reliable. There's another tight end on their team, had a couple of holding calls against him. I didn't see much from any other tight ends. D-Hop, of course, is awesome. Even with perfect coverage, he's still awesome. Like, he can still find a way to catch some balls. Murray threw a couple of picks in the second half. One was because of big pressure, and one, he and Ertz were on a different page. And so neither one was like just a regular bad throw. There was reasons for it. Their special teams, they did block a field goal. This team seemed to be very good in kick coverage, at least in the past couple weeks, and certainly in this game. They did botch receiving a punt, which resulted in a turnover. On defense, they are 19th in DVOA, but 30th in points per game, 30th in the amount of points they give up. Their line, again, it's pushed off the ball quite easily, but they can be slippery. Like, they can get through, but when it comes to push, it doesn't seem like they have it. Cousins even ran on them a couple times. He probably could have done it more. He got a first and a touchdown. There's lots of man coverage. Maybe that was just against coverage, but with the man coverage, it seemed like Cousins could run whenever he felt like it. Baker is in on nearly everything. I don't think that's good. Maybe that says something about Baker, but it also says something about their defense. Cousin missed some open throws in the first half. Cook did whatever he wanted. Dalvin Cook. Same with Madison when they were running back. In the second half, their team was stickier in coverage, but they missed a lot of plays on the ball. Like, they were there, but I didn't see them affect the ball. The pass rush was more effective in the second half. Maybe that was more blitzing, it seemed like. They did get the sack fumble. They never were able to stop the Vikings in the run game. Only thing that stopped the Vikings run game is, guess what? When the Vikings didn't call running plays. This was Cook's first 100-yard rushing game of the season, and he could have had 200 if they'd have called more plays. By the 15th carry, he was over 100. Watt, and that wasn't big, giant runs. It was just, they just were always running for 8 yards.
Right.
Watt had some nice pass rush moves, some key pressures. He had a big sack. The results, the Vikings won this game in the trenches, no doubt about it. Cards offer a lot of flashiness that never builds any steady, warm fires. That's what I would say overall about the team. Did you guys have anything to add about what you think about the Cards? Obviously, we're familiar with this team. I remember when I asked that of Adam, it went for 20 minutes, but I don't know if
you... the thing with this Cardinals team is that they will, I feel like the Vikings should have run away with that game against the Cardinals, and they didn't. The Cards just kept sticking with it the entire game, and I don't know if that's an issue with the Vikings and their defense and or what, but I was frustrated as a one-time Vikings fan last week, rooting against the Cardinals, that they just weren't putting that Cardinals team away.
Yeah, I think the purple people eater in you was raging. I was watching that. I was commenting in the Discord as we were getting ready for our game. I was like, all right, Vikings up double digits. Then they kind of they let that recede, right? They let them back in, like you just said.
Happens a lot in Cardinal games, yeah.
I think it happens a lot in Vikings games also. Okay. It's like, go back to last year, they were like the cardiac kids. I think they talk about not being able to play a normal game. Adam talks about Seahawks, Cardinals can't play a normal game. Vikings don't play normal football either. They changed the head coach and they still don't play normal football. So the thing that stands out for me is we've seen Geno effectively step on throats recently. And it's not the comeback. It's like, hey, we're up 7.
I love that.
Let's get up 14. Let's get up 10 at least. Yeah. So I don't expect that if we can get that lead, that we'll have the same type of recession. But the Cardinals have been sticky in that way. They've found ways to kind of claw back in. The Baker stuff is interesting too, Mr. Phil, when you say Baker was everywhere, but is that good? And I think it rings true for me last year being like, hey, Jordan Brooks has 1,000, tackles. But is that good? Like, I'm not sure that's good if he's always the one making the tackle, because that means the dudes up front didn't make the tackle. So if Baker's doing all that, that's a whole nother layer that's not making tackles. So it's an interesting observation. I'm excited to get into this week though, Mr. Phil. So now it is yours. The conch, whatever you want to call it, the orb, the whole thing. I'm here for the themiology. Brandon, are you here for the themiology? Are you ready for the theme?
I mean, that's why we do What If, is for the themiology.
There we go.
We know what time it is. That's what was. So we go to What If. Here we go, gentlemen.
Nicely.
Here's what grosses me out, guys. There's one thing that grosses me out, maybe as much as anything, and it is pouting. Pouting grosses me out. My mom called it the poochy lip disease. She didn't want to spread in the family around us. As a coach, though, when I see players or coaches pouting on the other side, I know we've got them. If my guys start to pout, it has to get fixed. We're going to go with positive words. We're going to fix it. But the other guys, we know we got them. And this team that we're about to play, the Cardinals, has an all-time world-class powder in the history of the National Football League. Like, maybe you'd see it in the NBA, maybe you'd see it in the English Premier League, but in the National Football League, I can't ever remember somebody that pouts even close to as much as Poutler Murray. He's the pout fish of the NFL, Kyler Poutler Murray. So what if, gentlemen, what if we can keep him pouting? I don't like it, but I like it when it's on the other team. Here we go. We got a few categories. There's pout around. Turn that frown upside down. And then how about we just let him pout, let him pout. And so we'll start with pout around. This is an odd numbered episode, which means it starts with Brandon. Let's get it going here, Brandon. What if the Hawks can keep Murray pouting around by bottling him up on defense? What's the best way for our team just to keep him frustrated all 60 minutes?
If I want to frustrate Kyler Murray, I want to take away his favorite target. And the one guy that I worry about the most going into this game is a guy that the Seahawks didn't have to face when they faced the Cardinals back on October 16th. It was DeAndre Hopkins. So he's back off suspension now. He's the guy that Kyler can just throw the football up to. And like you said in your preamble, it doesn't matter if he's covered sometimes. He just is able to come down with the football. Now, we have Tariq Woolen. We have a Tariq Woolen on our team.
He hasn't faced somebody like him before.
He hasn't necessarily faced him or a guy quite like him. And this is the matchup that I want to see. So if I want Kyler Murray to be pouting, I want to see an incredible game by Tariq Woolen, maybe even a pick going that way, because if you start picking off Kyler, you know that he's heading to the bench and showing off that pouty face.
Yes. And that's a good call, because both the games that he's been back, 10 catches or more have gone to Hopkins since he's been back. And if we can find a way to eliminate that could get him pouting pretty good. How about you, Clinton? How can we keep him pouting? How can we bottle him up on defense and just frustrate him all game?
Yeah, I think it's a 2-word answer. Ryan Neal for the win, for the block, for the whole thing already. And I think it's that 3-5-3, the big nickel, whatever you want to call it, right? It's the bring those dudes down into the box, get faster with more DBs out there, and just.
Are you wanting to spy him with Neal? You want to spy him with Neal?
Oh, I just I want Neal. I want Neal in the box is what I want. Like the Allison Chains. Man the box, like Neal down there doing his things. Sometimes it might be spyware. Sometimes it might be. It's time for him to send them, right? Or just chill out and just see what's going down. In general, I think Brandon's got it nailed with Hopkins. Like Hopkins is going to get, number one, he's going to get his. Number two, he's going to get the volume. So even if he's not getting, even if he's not 12 for 13, like I think he was last week, Hopkins with attempts to receptions, he's still probably going to get double digits attempts, so let's see the variance of what Tariq Woolen can do there, because you can't stop him fully, but can we be improved from what we've seen the last few weeks? But I think another way to do that is just to, we talked about it last time, make it more difficult for Murray to read what's going on. He's not a great student of the game. He can get confused. Bring the types of fronts where you're not blitzing all the time, but you're bringing the types of fronts where you're dropping the odd person back in coverage that he's not expecting to be back in coverage. You got 6, 7, 8 people like near the line and on the hike. You're changing up who is doing what. And that seems to get him a little, scrambled in his brain there. I think that's a very effective way and a tried and true way to just mix up Murray, where he's just not as good as he could be if it was just like more vanilla style play. So that's how I do it. Combining with, hopefully Tariq just does his thing, and where I'm really looking forward to that matchup. That matchup is probably like the star matchup for the whole week. It's like we're celebrating Tariq. People are starting to not even throw to his side. Yeah. That's not going to be the case here. They're going to throw to Hopkins, and I'm sure Woolen will be on him, a certain percentage of the time, right? So that's going to come out regardless of the words we say, which is cool.
Yeah.
And to Clinton's point too, with Kyler Murray, if you frustrate, if you're getting pressure on him, you're frustrating him. His passer rating under pressure, 30.1 on the season.
Wow.
I thought you might go there with some pressure.
Not good.
I hope we can get him with 4. I hope we can get after him with 4 and maybe a spy in there. I'd like Neal to be on Ertz more because I'm a little worried about Kobe trying to defend Ertz. I don't know if that's a good thing. And then I heard them talking about possibly throwing Hopkins in the slot, trying to get him up against Kobe. Those are a couple concerns that I might have.
I'm sure they'll do that too, because they're not just going to put him up against our best dude every single time.
Yeah. So if he gets in there in the slot, I hope we have a little extra something for him.
Sounds good.
Well, the next question goes towards Clinton. What if the Hawks O-line can get the Cards get their pass rush in on a little bit of pouting? How can we best keep their rush packages from General Geno Clinton?
Well, this was the kind of the frustrating thing. We won 19-9 last time.
Yeah.
And we settled for a lot of field goals last time. The game was field goal-y until we broke out a little bit.
5 sacks on Geno last time.
Yeah, it was the type of game where it's like, okay, the Cardinals are not that good at this. And then it was like, wait a second. They played better than I thought they were going to. And then, didn't really show up versus the Chargers. But then it kind of came back with the Giants. Not the pressure, but like, we didn't run block particularly well versus the Giants, in my opinion. They beat us a lot of times in the trenches. Again, they got 2 superior defensive tackles. It's going to happen. With that, again, it's like the how is sometimes players have to play better, right? So that sometimes that's the how. I thought last time our tackles against the Cardinals kind of looked like the most rookie-ish that they have so far.
Yeah.
And so does that mean we have to Chip and help and Travis Homer's back and those things? They probably are like, yes, to some extent. I think it might just come down to keep this one short. I think it might come down to Cross and Lucas have got to hit the film, look at what didn't go right last time and just progress, because I didn't understand how the Cardinals could pull that off versus us when they didn't seem to do that versus other teams. And it wasn't like they got a star back. It was like, nope, that's the same team out there. They just got consistent pressure and it didn't make a lot of sense. So I hate to be so chalky with that one, but our tackles have to play better.
So Brandon, do you agree it was the tackles, or is there a portion that you think we should put on Geno, or with how that went last time? Do you think he maybe could have stepped up or got it out quicker? Or do you think it really was the tackles, or do you have a different answer how we can get their pass rush in on some of the pouting?
Yeah, I want their pass rush to be in on the pouting, because that was one of the more frustrating things. But at the same time, scoring 19 points, it wasn't as though the Seahawks didn't drive the ball on the Arizona Cardinals defense. It was more the issue with scoring once they were inside the red zone.
Correct.
4 field goals.
Yeah. So 4 field goals on the day and the 1 touchdown. I mean, that's 5 scoring drives. So if you convert all those as touchdowns rather than field goals, you're scoring 30 plus points and running away with it. So
it's more the 5 sacks, like that kind of wasn't great. And a lot of them were in the red zone area. Did you see a way? I
think, and maybe what it was that the Cardinals were doing so well at taking away DK and Tyler that maybe it's going to be not necessarily Geno, not necessarily the pass rush. Maybe I would put this on Shane Waldron then to call more of those plays that if the Cardinals decide once again that they're not going to take away Ken Walker, that the guys they want to take away are DK and Tyler, then dial up plays throughout the day. Like, have a plan going into the game that you're going to use your tight ends, have a plan that you're going to continue to run the ball with Ken Walker. Because if that's how the Cardinals are going to choose to affect this offense, then have a plan that doesn't involve targeting DK and Tyler so much.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah, if we got Walker going like Cook's got going, what are they going to do if we can just run it on them all day? Or
don't stop.
3 tight ends. Don't
more
quit
of that.
On that one.
Yeah, more of that.
Well, on to the next category, gentlemen. Turn that frown upside down. That's what to do when the pouting begins to happen. turn that Eli into a smile right here. What if a player, this is for Brandon, who has caused you to frown this season can have a big game this week? Who might that be and why? There's a player that's really caused you to frown on our team, and maybe they can have a big game. Who do you think that might be against the Cards and why, Brandon?
Oh, that would be okay. I think this might be a good place to go with Austin Blythe then, because he is injured after this last game. The offensive line was a little bit of a concern against the Cardinals last time. I want to see Austin Blythe not give up any pressures up the middle and give Geno that pocket to step up into they do get the pressure off the outside. So if he knows that Blythe and Lewis and whether it's Gabe Jackson or Haynes that's up front, that those guys are performing well, and I put Blythe as the one that I'm most concerned about among those three. Yeah, if he can provide that protection up front to give Geno a spot to step up into, that'll turn my frown upside down.
That sounds great, Brandon. Let's see Mr. Blythe do it. Okay, Clinton, how about you? Somebody that's caused you to frown a little bit this year. They might have a big game this week, and your frown will have gone upside down. Who do you got, Clinton?
Oh, I've got some answers. I do want to check in first on Brandon's Blythe hate train, because it's still running. It's a train, keep it running, Brandon. the hate for Austin
on the
Blythe
3 and
there.
3 out. It sounded like it was still going, but that means it's a perfect candidate.
Exactly. That's why I love the answer. And in fact, it's the source. I love the question. It's a great question. So I've got two, and I'm going to share them both because I don't think the other player might come up in a different answer. The first one for me is Puna. And the reason it's Puna is not because I was, disappointed with him earlier. He just wasn't kind of involved in the first couple of weeks of the season before they changed their scheme. We keep having this discussion. I threw something into the Seahawkers pod Ring of Honor this morning because, Ryan, I think it's Ryan Peterson, Frost in the Discord. I gave away his secret identity. Our Ryan, our executive producer for our live shows. He's like, when are you going to give the love to Clint Hurt?
It's
I'm
secret.
Like, well, yeah, secret. Yeah. Careful.
Secret.
But I'm not giving the love to Clint Hurt on this turnaround because I don't think this was Clint Hurt's intention. I think they went back to Pete Ball and they're executing better, which is fine. It's all good. I don't care how we get there, but I do care about who gets the credit because that's part of what we do. Where Puna was ineffective earlier in the year, he's really come on. He's really had a couple of nice games in a row as it all kind of normalizes, kind of how I'll frame it. So I want to see Puna get that guttural old school Volvo commercial we talk about, that crumple zone pressure where him and Q Jeff and Shelby, they do damage right up the gut with a backup center. And we see Puna with maybe, whatever, just a big day. I don't want to.
He did get the garbage time sack last week.
Yeah. Hey, garbage time sacks count. Those count. They probably pay bonus checks and I'm all there for it. The other one I'll quickly throw in as a sidecar bonus is this feels to me like a game where Miles Adams maybe should play again and not LJ Collier. And I'm hopeful they'll flip flop. I'm hopeful they'll bring these guys back in and you don't think so, Brand saying, nope, don't see it.
LJ had the bat down. It was awesome, but that was just one step.
He had to play. We also gave up 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, whatever it was, where we had no pressure with 4 at crucial moments where that is Miles Adams' wheelhouse.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
So I'd love to see Miles Adams get back on the field. And again, he doesn't make me upset, but him being benched for when he's healthy, that does cause a little ire for me because I think he's a better player.
Yeah, LJ's PBU, he celebrated like it was a scoop and score. I think it just felt good to be back out there. Probably.
I don't blame the guy. I want him to succeed when he's out there. I just don't think he's our best option to be out there right now. But that's okay. If he's out there, go freaking Collier because it's what he's wearing, right? So let's go.
All right, second half, I turned the frown upside down. This one to Clinton. What if you share your biggest fears regarding Arizona? And how can those fears be assuaged? I don't know how they say it over there in Connecticut, assuaged, but assuaged. Okay. How can your biggest fears be assuaged during this matchup?
Oh dear. Okay. Yeah. So it's for me, my biggest fear is that and this is partially the Cardinals, but I think it's like more about us. It's kind of like one of those things where they say the thing you don't like about me is what you actually don't like about yourself, right? You're projecting. So in this particular psychological experiment, I really want to see us run the ball with more efficacy and not the Ken Walker, holy crap, Ken Walker just did something that 99.999% of humans can't do. So let's seal clap for that. And it's more like, ooh, there was a hole there. The average dude would get 5. Walker got 12. There was a hole there, et cetera, et cetera. The story goes from there. So what was the original question though, Phil? It was shaped a certain way.
Your biggest fears regarding Arizona in this particular matchup, and how can those be assuaged during this game?
Yeah. I think it's just the idea that Arizona could be pretty effective again with shutting down the run. I know Walker had 21 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. I think he had like 18 or 20 carries, something like that. So pretty good average, obviously a nice average. I want to turn it and say my biggest fear is that we don't run the ball well again. And I'm not sure it's a Cardinal thing or that's a Austin Blythe thing to help out Brandon there. But let's run the ball with more consistency, where it's not hero ball K9 doing something amazing versus like it's well blocked, and then he's still better than the average bear because he is who he is.
You might be right, because DVOA is not ready to say that Walker's a really good back yet, because they feel like he's a home run guy, like the Reggie Jackson. They say because he doesn't get consistent help his team win runs. And so that just kind of the way they're running the stats. And you're thinking it's more our line and our blocking, because it looks like the tight ends are doing a good job. The tight ends are doing a good job on opening slots, aren't they?
They are. I think that the triple tight end sets are cool, but this is not like a think thing. This is not a feel thing. This is watch the tape. The dude doesn't have, in many instances has nowhere to go right now. And if you look at the average, I think it's what's his name? Ben Baldwin out there, a computer cowboy on Twitter. He had a great, graphic he put up with like expected yards over average essentially. And Walker's way in the quadrant you want him in. So
Barry Sanders was one of the guys that had 3 years where he was the biggest boomer bust home run. He'd have tons of bottled up, and then he'd get the big home runs. And I guess Walker's stat line is running similar to Barry's from this article that I just read. How about you, Brandon? The biggest fears you have regarding Arizona? I feel like you might go in a completely different direction, but let's see here. What do you got?
Well, my biggest fear going into Arizona is just the location itself.
That's what I thought you were going to say. Yeah.
Careful. It's spooky.
It's scary down there. So I'm going to give the team a couple options here, because I'm not just a doom and gloom. I'm a solutions oriented person here.
That's what we want.
Look at you.
So lots of stretching. You do lots of stretching. If you need to do high knees in the aisles on the flight down to Arizona, you do that.
Hydration,
praying works. I mean,
I agree.
Do extra pregame prayers just to be sure. And then, if you can sacrifice a live chicken in the locker room, do that. If you have to bring in a bucket of KFC, as a backup to Joe Boo, whatever needs to happen to make this game injury free, you do it to make it happen. And that would help alleviate my biggest fear.
So Brandon, you need to ask your childhood buddy. I know you haven't done the flagship show yet. You need to ask him if he's got the ability, if Adam can do an uncurse. We see how effective his curses are. Can he come up with something to do an uncurse regarding the city of Glendale? You got to ask him that for us.
I'll ask. I have a feeling that it may be a very strong curse that exists down there, because we've seen it exist over generations.
If we get through this game and no key players are hurt, that will turn all of our frowns upside down, won't it, for sure?
Yes.
Okay, last category. Let him pout. Let him pout? What if, Brandon, you could listen in to Cards fans watching this game, kind of like enemy reaction that Field Goals does?
Yeah.
What do you most expect to hear them pout about during this game? Like, we're saying the what if, the game goes how you expect. What are you going to be expecting to hear them pout and cry and moan about as they see us play them this week?
I think it would be pouting about their defense, because I think we will see another big game from Ken Walker. I think it's frustrating for fans, even now that we've seen Geno Smith have success through 8 games, that that fans just have that expectation of what Geno is, and that the defense should be able to stop him. And so if we just up our red zone production, like turn 2 of those field goals into touchdowns, I think that that's going to have a significant difference in the score of this game.
That's our 27.
Yeah. And it's really going to frustrate those fans about this Cardinals defense. And I have one other area that I kind of wish I would have gone, but I'll turn it over to Clinton.
Yeah, they've given up 34 points exactly their last 2 opponents. So maybe we can join the party.
Yeah.
So that's a good answer. Them pouting about their defense. I'd love to hear some of that. How about you, Clinton?
So this one, I think, and Brandon, I'd love to know if I tick the number 1 answer off the board here or not. If and when this happens, they'll be 3-6, right? So if they're pouting, they're 3-6. Number 1, their season's over. Number 2, they just gave Murray a gigantic contract that he's probably not deserving of. And number 3, they have a head coach who cannot scheme for the offense. And he's
ding,
an offense.
Number 3 was where I was going to go with my number 1.
They're desperate. That's what I'm worried about. You guys didn't mention fears, but they're desperate. They got to win this game. So
that's a good point. And let's take that forward a step or two. How could that manifest itself? That would be Murray goes bananas on the ground, right? But that's what happens when it's like fourth quarter, we need 10 points. What do you see? Even like Dak Prescott do when he's healthy. Obviously Murray, Lamar almost all the time. Josh Allen, if they have to go get points, it's desperation time. They're using their feet. They are using their feet, and they'll do it over and over and over again. So if the crimp is on and they're staring down the barrel of 3-6, and it's like third quarter, 10 minutes to go, and we're up 9 or 10, expect a heavy dose of Kyler Murray running the ball at that point, because that's the way that he'll know that he could probably get his team back in this thing. But if they're 3-6 and pouty, man, the target on Kingsbury, he's not a very good coach, and it's going to be like regime change talk about a team that probably should have and could have been sellers at the deadline. It's this Cardinals team. They're not that good.
That's right. And I mean, to piggyback on that, what I would say is that just knowing that this could be that make or break game for the coach, how many more chances are we going to see Kingsbury take? And if he is taking more chances, that gives the Cardinals that much more opportunity for those chances to backfire and to really have this rain down upon them. So that's why I think the spotlight would go directly to Kingsbury.
A waterfall of sadness. A waterfall of sadness. Okay, others. Next one on Let Him Pout. This one to Clinton. Besides the certain pouting from Kyler that we know is going to be there, what if the Hawks can cause other Cardinals to pout this week? Who would you like to see left pouting at points in this game? It's like, we can cause this person to pout. That's a good sign for us, Clinton.
Yeah, so give me a second to pull up their names here, because I want to get this at least somewhat accurate. Look at me doing somewhat professional stuff on the fly here. So, okay, yeah. So you've got Marco Wilson, Jalen Thompson, obviously everybody knows Buddha, Byron Murphy. I think it's, let's go to Byron Murphy. Like it's the corners, because you said it earlier. The Cardinals are somehow, some way remarkably good at shutting down top tier wide receivers. I listened to the CBS. It's fantasy football today. They do, it's a great.
They're good.
It's fun stuff. So they get into a lot of the stats analysis, and every single week, Adam Azer will bring up, he's kind of the lead dog there. He'll be like, yeah, he's like, whoever's playing the Cardinals, like, you can't bench DK Metcalf, but don't expect WR1 numbers versus the Cardinals. And it's like, why? Like, what's happening there? Because they don't seem to be fantastic shutdown corners, but yet they get the job done, right? So there's got to be a bit of a tip of the hat and say, good job. So if we can see the cornerbacks pouting, and we see, and why that would be Lockett and Metcalf getting theirs over on this team, watch out. That would be cherry on top of this deliciousness in Glendale. I'm not sure to expect it, but if we do see it, it's bonus time, man.
How about you? Who would you like to see pouting other than the obvious Kyler?
You know, I'll stick with that same theme, but I would say since they have done a good job, I'm not necessarily wanting to go that way into making them pout. Like if that's the way that they're choosing to operate their defense, then I want their linebackers to pout because I'm doing a heavy stream of Ken Walker and I'm throwing at the tight ends over the middle and really attacking the linebackers. So I think that might be more the way to go. The idea that I want them pouting, if that's the way, if they want to choose to take out DK and Tyler, then you're going to have to live with the other parts that the Seahawks are going to focus on if that's the direction that you want to go.
Yeah.
You guys both agree
sorry,
that's the best way for us to dominate this game is to pound it with Walker and hit the tight ends. You think that's the best way?
Yeah, I do. Because I was about to bring up Noah Fant's numbers from last time. That was his best game. But he had 6 receptions, 45. You know, he had a good game. And I still profess week in, week out that it doesn't matter who. Like we just throw our 3 tight ends in a blender and then say, what did the tight ends produce? With that, Fant was kind of the one last time. And maybe because of his speed, probably, right? To where he was able to do some certain things. So I do think that, Mr. Phil. I think tight end usage, it's been so fun to watch. It's so fun to watch tight end. It's just great. It's old school yet inventive. And when you could do that, you got something kind of charming there. So the trip tight end stuff where we're scheming tight ends open, it's a joy, man. I love it.
I've yet to see anybody stop it where we fake the pitch or hand off one way, Gino rolls the other way, and he's got the high-low where he can easily hit the tight end for the first down, and he's got the shot at maybe getting the deep guy. I've yet to see anybody stop the short one.
Yep.
This season.
Yeah, and speaking of frustrating in the enemy reaction, I think if you looked at that out on field goals last week, you saw Giants fans frustrated that how do they keep running this play and we're not stopping it?
It's against everybody, though. It's not just them. Nobody stops it.
Right. Yeah,
very good.
I love that. Just you pitch it, the whole thing washes to one side, and somebody's open. It's freaking lovely. Yeah, great call.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna wrap it up here. So last week, Clinton was closest on the score differential again, and so he went from a 1-3 deficit. And combining going against Brandon and Adam, he now leads 4-3.
Yes, just like our Seahawks, Mr. Phil, 3 in a row. Let's go.
Yes, but Brandon had the better wish that he picked Mafe on the sack, and he nailed it. Nice. It was exactly what he was hoping for. So congratulations on nailing your wish, Brandon. Now we gotta. So this one will go to Brandon first. Time for prediction. Predict your what if, Super Hawk, and your score. I got my keyboard out. I'm ready to type. This is a key thing for you, Brandon. You need to get this tied back up again. So your wish and your score, Brandon.
All right. My wish is for Tariq Woolen in this game. And I do want to see him shut down D-Hop, but I just want to see him in general shut down anything that's coming in his direction. So I will say my what if Super Hawk, if it hits, then it will be because Woolen has a passer rating when thrown against under 60. And I feel like that's pretty good. I know that he's done better than that this year, but again, there are some pretty good receiving options. We really didn't talk about Rondale Moore much for the Cardinals, and he's a guy who, if Kyler's dumping it off to him, he's a guy who can get yards after the catch.
Yep.
And that wouldn't necessarily show up in Woolen's area.
Kobe's good against that. Kobe's pretty good at killing the yards after the catch. His passer rating against, not good, but is good at.
Mike Jackson, I feel, is also one of those guys that shuts down the yards after the catch. But generally, that's not guys who are getting hit with the passes who are on the move. And I think Moore's been pretty good at that. But I'm going to stick with Woolen. Prediction for the game: Seahawks 27 points. But a streak comes to the end. The Arizona Cardinals, they score 18, and we only win by 9.
Okay, that's the streak that ends. We were worried that it might be a different streak.
All right.
Because usually when you predict the other team, you end up being right. So I'm glad that you said that we're going to win this one, Brandon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we all had bated breath with that one, right?
The difference between prediction and what was it you and Adam were?
Yes, the difference between a prediction and picking. I do not pick against my team.
Yeah.
But if you ask me to predict the score,
Which is what if is.
which is
Yes.
what if it's what it is. Yeah, I feel like that's a very nuanced take, but that's how I get around my personal mantra of not picking against my team.
And you have, Brandon, you have predicted the winner in every game except for that one game when you were double homers. When you both were homers, every game you've predicted the proper winner. So I'm happy to hear that you have predicted.
All right,
I'm
doing all right then.
27-18. How about you? How about you, Clinton? What's
Yes.
your wish and your predicted score?
Yes, sir. And I think if Adam were here, he would have some nuanced words for Brandon's
He
explanation.
can nuance his words at me all he wants.
Very nuanced words that might call for a specific button to be played. And if you're a listener, then you know what we're talking about, and you should know. All right. So my wish, the game last time was close because we couldn't get 7 or 6 in the red zone. So my wish is that we are over 50% in touchdown percentage in the red zone, which I think is still a good day, but like, I think last time we were whatever it was, like 20% or something like that. So over 50%, I hope to see it even higher, but touchdown percentage.
No, we didn't have one. Zone. We were 0 in the red last time. The only touchdown we had was deep. Yep.
That's right. Okay. So I want 50% or over, which I think is, that's a good place to be. My score, similar to Brandon's, this one's going to be close, point differential here. We'll see what happens, but I have 30-20. So 30-20, double zeros at the end of it here. I expect the Cardinals to score more with D-Hop. You brought up Rondale Moore. Moore is a heck of a much better slot 2 when he has an alpha 1, and he's got his alpha 1 back. So, Rondale Moore as a 1 at 5'7" playing the slot. No, that's not how the NFL works. But you get your dog back, and they have him. Yeah, you could expect Moore to be way more involved. So with that, Cardinals score some more. But if we have the red zone percentages that I think we could have, we're not stuck in the teens. We're not stuck in the low 20s. We eclipse that marker and get to 30 for a 30-20 victory.
So he prices righted you. I see what he did there.
Yeah. $1. Yeah.
He went over by $1. But keep our 10-point streak alive. That'd be okay.
Yes.
We haven't had any of those what's going to happen final second thriller here in a little while, and I hope that streak continues. All right, gentlemen, anything to add?
No, Phil. I've been doing just fired up. Let's continue the
Should we do it? Should we do it? Okay, we're ready for it. We're ready for this weekend.
We're ready.
Down goes Murray. Pout, pout, pout. Right, guys? So what if we say go Hawks?
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Hawks.